Godine 1990. Jugoslavija je bila u raspadu. Građani svih republika birale su svoga vladara, to jest predsjednika. Toga su bili svjesni svi oni koji su htjeli da cijela vlast, to jest moć, bude u državi Srbiji, to jest točnije u gradu Beogradu, u Srbiji. U Srbiji je tada na poticaj Miloševića pokrenuta velikosrpska politika. Ta politika je značila da prostori u Hrvatskoj i Bosni i Hercegovini koji su naseljeni na Srbima, da se pripoje srpskom teritoriju. Na teritoriju Hrvatske, gdje su živjeli Srbi, htjeli su pripojiti taj dio Hrvatske sa Srbijom, pa su nazvali to Srpskom autonomnom krajinom. Godine 1990. u kolovozu došlo je do balvan revolucije. U toj revoluciji su paravojne srpske postrojbe blokirale, to je stavile barikade na hrvatskim cestama. Hrvatska policija nije htjela izazvati veće sukobe pa nije reagirala na takve napade. I zato je došlo do većih problema u Hrvatskoj jer su okupirali veći dio teritorija u Hrvatskoj. Jedan od tih teritorija je Knin, to je Kninsko područje. A to se sve dogodilo zato što je Jugoslavenska narodna armija podržala srpske okupatore.
1991. godine Hrvatska i srpska policija su se sukobili. Hrvatska policija više nije mogla pasivno promatrati situaciju. U ožujku 1991. godine hrvatski i srpski policajci sukobili su se u Pakrovcu. Nekoliko dana kasnije srpski su pobunjenici napali hrvatsku policiju u Plitvicama. Par dana kasnije pala je prva žrtva rata, Josip Jović, hrvatski policajac. U svibnju te iste godine došlo je do novih sukoba u Borovom selu kod Vukovara. Te iste godine hrvatski i srpski policajci sukobili su se u Borovom selu kod Vukovara. Poginulo je 12 hrvatskih policajaca koji su ubijeni i masakrirani.
During the summer of 1991, the conflicts were blazing throughout Croatia. The SAO Krajina territory had already been beyond the control of Croatian authority, and now the Serbian rebels, with generous help from the JNA and the volunteers from Serbia, were able to take over large parts of Slavonia, Lika, Banja, Kordun and Dalmatia. They occupied the whole eastern part of Baranja and Slavonia, part of western Slavonia, large parts of Banja, Kordun and Lika. In Dalmatia, they occupied Zadar and Drniš, and in the south they occupied large territories around Dubrovnik. Particularly tragic was the fate of Vukovar. It was under siege by the Yugoslav People's Army, the rebel Croatian Serbs and the Serbian militias from August to November 1991. While the number of defenders of Vukovar was about 1800, the number of JNA soldiers and rebel Serbians was around 80,000, and they were much better armed. In the area around Vukovar, there were over 1,600 tanks and Serbian aircrafts. With such power, the Serbs could, in theory, take over Vukovar in just a few days. But Vukovar managed to resist the overwhelming military force for almost 3 months. Commander of the Croatian defense was Mile Dedaković Jastreb, Branko Borković, Mladi Jastreb, and Blago Zadro, who was killed in action on the 16th November 1991. They all had significant roles in the defense of the city. Vukovar's defense would not have been possible without other known and unknown heroes. Vukovar was exposed to daily shellings in which a large number of civilians were killed. Most of the Serbian population fled the city before the occupation. The non-Serb population was forced to flee, which resulted in an ethnically pure area. The first buildings to be destroyed in Vukovar were the hospital, the Catholic church, and the water tower. At that time, there were 300 wounded people in the hospital. From 15th October 1991, Vukovar was fully surrounded by Serbs. A Red Cross convoy with humanitarian aid, which included members of the European communities, was denied entry by the JNA. There are many tragic testimonies of survivors and daily reports on the Vukovar radio about the incredible heroism and suffering of those who remained in Vukovar till the end. people were living in basements. The Vukovar hospital was the biggest war clinic. There was a food and medical materials shortage. Dead bodies couldn't be buried because of the constant shelling. After several months, on the 18th November 1991, the city fell into the enemy's hands. With the occupation of Vukovar, the Serbian army began the second part of the Vukovar tragedy. Contrary to all international norms and agreements reached with the International Red Cross and European observers, the Serbian army tortured and committed crimes against the civilians, prisoners, and wounded. All over the city of Vukovar, people were being shot. For the first few days of the occupation, the wounded were taken out of the hospital and executed. Mass graves were discovered several months later. The world was shaken by the images of Ovčara, where the mass executions were carried out. It is assumed that the graves have not yet been discovered. During the Battle of Vukovar, nearly 6,000 soldiers and civilians died, and there were 3,000 people wounded. More than 5,000 were taken to camps in Serbia, where they have suffered severe abuse and many have never returned. A large number of camps haven't been discovered yet, so we still don't know how many people from Vukovar disappeared forever. Several thousand refugees from Vukovar live scattered in Croatia and abroad. After the fall of Vukovar, the international UN forces had taken control. However, the expulsion and ethnic cleansing of non-Serbs still continued. Because of these crimes, the International War Crimes Tribunal in Hague sentenced the JNA officer Veselin Šljivančanin and Mile Mrkšić, one of the leaders of the rebel Serbs, to 5 years in prison.
Još jedna važna osoba za Vukovar je Siniša Glavašević, urednik Hrvatskog radija Vukovar. On je bio ratni izvjestitelj u Vukovaru dok je bio okupiran. Ubijen je i sahranjen na masovnoj grobnici u Ovčari. Poslije njegove smrti objavljena je knjiga Priče iz Vukovara. Ovo su njegove priče.
Netko je dirao moje parkove, kupe na kojima su još urezana naša imena, sjenu u kojoj ste dali i primili prvi poljubac. Nema izloga u kojem ste se divili vlastitim radostima. Nema kina u kojem ste gledali najtužniji film. Vaša je prošlost jednostavno razorena i sada nemate ništa. A grad, za njega ne brinite. On je sve vrijeme bio u vama. Grad, to ste vi.
The occupation of Vukovar lasted 3 months. Peaceful reintegration began on the 15th of January 1998, where Vukovar and other parts of eastern Slavonia, Banja and western Srijem finally became a part of Croatia again. The Croatian government and President Franjo Tuđman hadn't done enough to defend the suffering city.